Okay, we are going to, in this video, finish up the last couple of pages of our booklet so that we can have a complete booklet. Forgot to put my light up here. Here we go. So we're going to go to the greatest integer, and this notation is new. So you're going to do like a bracket there. This means the greatest integer. Now, what this means is y is the greatest integer. Remember, integers are going to be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So no fractions, no decimals. Those are integers, right? The greatest integer, I have an extra r in there, ignore that, not greater than x. And this is a step function. You'll see why it's called a step function in a minute. Now I'm going to change my scale just to make our graph easier to look at. I'm going to go every 2. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then -1, -2, -3, -4. And I'll do the same on the y. Okay, now let's do a table of values. I was trying to figure out what I should do here. So at 0, 0 is the greatest integer, not bigger than 0. Right? At 0.5, 0 is the greatest integer, not bigger than 0. 1 is bigger. Right? -1 is smaller. So 0. At 0.75, also 0. At 0.9, also 0. At 1, I jump to 1. So what's going to happen is from 0 to 1, but not including 1, your greatest integer is 0. Now, from 1 to 2, it's going to be 1. So starting at 1 and going to 2, but not including 2, it's going to be 1. So the greatest integer not bigger than 1.9 is 1. Then starting at 2 and going to 3, but not including 3, it's going to be 2. Starting at 3, but not including 3, it's going to be 3. Going backwards, starting at -1 and going to 0, it's going to be -1. Starting at -2 and going to 0, it's going to be -2. And so on. You see why it's called a step function? Climbing the steps. Now, I'm not going to do all this other information. Actually, let's do some of it. This one is not continuous. Because I had to pick up my pencil. And actually, I am going to end it right there. Just because I don't want to take the time. So you can fill all that in your next class. Okay, let's take a look at the last couple of pages. Might as well go ahead and get that done. So we are going to look at this page, which just summarizes our transformations for us. I'm really just trying to give you one place to look here. Now, I am going to point out this is exactly what we've always done. A times x minus h squared plus k. I did put in negative for a, remembering that that a can flip you. I have never done B. We've never talked about horizontal compression, stretch, and flip. We haven't talked about those. Notice that they're the same as the vertical down here, except it's going to flip across the y-axis. It's going to stretch from left to right. It's going to compress from left to right. So they're the same as those. So this is just a summary of things we've already done, except for my horizontal. Okay? So let's take a look here on this last page. Looking at what affects the domain and what affects the range. So if I go down our list here, and go down my, let's just go across here. My A is going to affect the range. Not shift, sorry. Compression, stretch, or reflects. My B is going to affect the domain. My H is going to affect the domain. My K is going to affect the range. Okay, so let's look at this. So I'm just giving you points that are on my function. So if I do f of 2x, that's a b, right? Because it's with the x. See this right here? F of bx. What that's going to do is it's going to actually compress for b greater than 0, which it is here. It's going to actually compress from the horizontal. So I'm going to be pushing in from left and right, compressing. That means that it's going to be getting, the x's are going to be getting smaller. So I'm going to divide by b. So this is going to be 0 over 2. The y doesn't change. This is going to be 1/2. 4 over 2. The y doesn't change. 9 over 2. The y doesn't change. Okay? Now, I'm going to take those values and multiply by 3 on the outside. That is an A value because it's on the outside. That's going to affect my range, right? And it's bigger than 0, so I'm just going to multiply the y by A. So I'm just showing you how I'm using my chart here. So my y gets multiplied, my x stays the same. Multiplied by the wrong darn thing. It's early in the morning. Three times 3. Okay, then I've got my reflection. So that's just going to change all my y values to 0. I'm sorry, gosh, darn it. That's going to change all my y values. I'm going to multiply by -1. It's going to change them all to negative. Now notice this has two things happening. That's an H and that's a K. Don't forget with your H that you see. That's why I couldn't find it. You do the opposite. So for x plus 4, I'm going to subtract 4 from my x. And then that -1 off to the side, that's here, I'm going to subtract 1 from my y. So the -3 and the 2 are the same, so I'm just coming straight from here. For h, I'm going to subtract 4. For k, I'm going to subtract 1. For h, I'm going to subtract 4. For k, I'm going to subtract 1. For h, I'm going to subtract 4. For k, I'm going to subtract 1. For h, I'm going to subtract 4. which would be 1 over 2. For k, I'm going to subtract 1. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm obviously not going to test you on that right now, but I wanted you to have at least seen it, how this right here works, because your pre-calc teacher will likely use something similar to this to do their transformations.